Before you break ground on a new development, you better know your numbers. Developers don't guess. We run the math, project the risk, and make sure the deal works before a shovel hits dirt. But here's the thing. The numbers aren't the only thing you need to consider when deciding whether or not to move forward with a project. I'm Josephine, founder of Sapphire Development Group. We've built an 8-figure development pipeline by mastering one core skill, deal analysis. Because real estate development isn't just about building, it's also about building profitable projects. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I personally analyze a residential development deal step by step, so you can evaluate your next project with confidence. Let's start with step 1. Know your end product and your exit strategy. Before you even look at the numbers, you need to get really clear on two things. First, what are you building? And then second, how do you plan on exiting your project? Are you building to sell quickly for a return, or are you building to rent and hold long-term, like building generational wealth? Or maybe it's a hybrid, like a build-to-rent townhome, a project you plan to refinance later. Well, your exit strategy determines everything that comes next. What you will spend on finishes and design, how aggressive or conservative your revenue projections should be, and what kind of financing you'll use. Your holding costs and your timeline and your overall risk exposure. Based on my experience, I would really start with the end in mind so that you're not running the wrong numbers. And in development, wrong numbers don't just mess up the spreadsheet, they can sink the entire project. Next up is the land acquisition and the site costs. Obviously, you always want to negotiate as best as you can, but once you know what you're building, you need to understand really what you can pay for the land. So I'm not just talking about the sales price. You're not asking how much does the seller want. You need to factor in everything that it actually requires to take it from raw dirt to like building ready. So you want to factor in closing costs like title insurance, escrow, transfer taxes, but also your survey fees. So you'll need like a boundary and topography survey, maybe even like soil reports. And so environmental studies could entail like phase 1 or 2, depending on your location and the prior use. You want to understand what utility hookups you have available for water, sewer, and electric, and then what is it going to cost you to connect. And then if you have any kind of structures, so trees or bushes on the lot, you need to make sure you count for demoing or clearing the brush. So you need to make sure that you're accounting for all these items in your pro forma. I recommend for you to understand these costs early so that you know really whether your deal is going to pencil or not. And this is why we use a detailed pro forma template that accounts for every single line item. So if you're running your numbers without a system like this, you're just kind of guessing. And in development, guessing can get really, really expensive. If you want to use what I use, you can grab my sheet for under $100, and I'll link it in the description below so that you can avoid any kind of rookie mistakes. Another item you want to factor in is hard costs. Hard costs are the physical brick and mortar expenses of bringing your project to life. This is where the bulk of your budget will go for construction and site work. So here's what is included, like labor, the GC, and subcontractor fees, like so from your framers, electrician, roofers, everyone, right? Materials from lumber to tile to trim and everything in between. We have in there also the contractor fees for the project management and overhead, their profit. Now, I also include permits and inspections. The city charges you for the privilege of building, so you'll have to factor those in. Then impact fees for public services like roads, schools, and utilities. Now, here's the reality. Even with the best planning, unexpected costs will always show up. Prices spike, you hit a rock while excavating, weather delays your crew. I always like to pad my hard costs with about a 10% contingency. It's not just pessimism, it's realism. Great developers don't hope for the best, we plan for the worst and deliver anyway. Let's talk about soft costs. These are the behind-the-scenes expenses that aren't physical construction, but they're still critical and crucial to the project success. So soft costs include your architectural and engineering fees, legal fees, and permitting. Again, permitting, it kind of depends which side of the permitting. You can include otherwise in hard costs or soft costs. And then marketing, sales, and commissions. And then also insurance, such as liability, builder's risk, and sometimes other type of insurances. And then also your holding costs, like property taxes, utilities, and also your loan interest while you build. So your cost of capital. Soft costs are sneaky, and new developers underestimate them a lot of times. That's how projects bleed margin, even if the spreadsheet looked profitable at the start. Experienced developers know your numbers aren't complete until every soft cost is accounted for. Now let's talk about revenue, because no matter how great your project looks, if it doesn't sell or rent, you're stuck. That's why you ideally want to have at least 4 or 5 exit strategies. You need real comps to estimate, and in the last 18 months, I really suggest that you take a deep dive and obsess over your comps. Really make sure you click into the individual listings and really contrast and compare features, neighborhood subdivisions to really understand where your real comps are. Depending on your exit strategy, you're going to be pulling the sales prices if you're selling or the rental income if you're holding. And don't forget get vacancy rates and absorption timelines when you're looking to rent it and keep it. So ask yourself, what actually is closing right now? What's been sitting on the market for months and why? Are the rental rates steady or softening? The same for sales prices. This is not the place for optimism. You want to make sure that your data is accurate and up to date, because if you're projecting based on wishful thinking, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and probably a very expensive lesson. Once you have all your inputs, you can project your profit margin. Personally, I aim for 20 to 25% margin on smaller residential projects because I want to have extra cushion, but you want to have at least a 15% margin. So margins alone aren't just enough. You also need to assess your risk exposure and your comfort level with risk. So that includes market volatility, timeline risk like with permits, weather, supply chain, anything that could delay, financing risks like interest rate changes that happened the last 2 years, and lastly, exit risks. So buyer demand or lease up speed. What is if the product sits longer on the market? You need to account for that and how long you can afford it. And also make sure that you have the right relationships with your lenders and your investors. As a developer, you don't just chase returns. You really want to understand the risk also required to earn these returns. So let's recap how to properly analyze a development deal. You want to first define your end product and exit strategy. Lock in your land and site costs. Be in a great location and have also a story of growth. Build a realistic hard cost budget. Capture every soft cost. Be conservative with revenue projections and know your margins. But most of all, respect your risk. Development is not a guessing game. Good developers analyze deals ruthlessly so they can build profitably and sustainably. If this walkthrough helped you, hit that like button below and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. I break down development strategy just like this every single week. And if you want the simple performa template I mentioned, grab it in the description below. It will save you from some painful, expensive mistakes. And if you want to go deeper, check out our coaching program, Developer Academy. We've got an incredible community of developers building real projects across the country. And we'd love to help you get yours off the ground. Thanks for watching, and if this video helped you think more strategically, drop a comment and tell me what stood out to you. And if there's something you want me to cover next, let me know. I tailor this content to you and your questions. I post content every single week to help you build smart, profitable projects and avoid the mistakes that I had to learn the hard way. I'll see you in the next one.